Experimentation, I think just the industry as a whole, I think it's going to enter almost like a golden era, I feel like. With AI coming through, everybody is going to ship faster. But do you have the right infrastructure in place to measure those things that you're shipping out?
Welcome to the Experimentation Edge, where product managers, data scientists, and engineers talk about how they make smarter decisions. I'm Ashley Stirrup, the Chief Marketing Officer for GrowthBook, and in each episode, I'll sit down with an executive to unpack how they use experimentation and A/B testing to make better decisions. This show is sponsored by GrowthBook, the open source experimentation platform leader. Now let's jump in and get started with our next guest.
Hello, and welcome to today's episode. I'm happy to have Kevin Yang, Executive Director and Head of Experimentation at JPMorgan Chase with us.
Hello. Hi, Ashley. Thank you for inviting me. Excited to be here.
Yeah, thank you. Me too. You've had an extensive career at JPMorgan Chase. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about your role there and what parts of the JPMorgan Chase business you work on.
Yeah, sure. So yes, I've been with Chase for a long time. I think 12 years, maybe going on 13. And the last 6 years, I have been leading experimentation across our digital platforms. And so the team mission is basically helping the firm make better decisions. And we believe experimentation is one of the ways to really do that. My team is structured in kind of two pillars. One pillar is the platform. So that is the technology that helps the team, that empowers the product team to be able to self-service on running experiments, being able to really scale that, being able to just do it without needing a data scientist on the team. And then the other side is the practice. So this is where we embed our team members to strategic initiatives. So to make sure the teams that are running those initiatives have the right practice, framework, and the right culture to be able to use experimentation well. And with both of these things, that's how we kind of make sure experimentation really scales and get value for the firm.
Terrific. And what parts of JPMorgan Chase do you work on?
So I sit within what we call CCB, which is the consumer bank rather than the investment bank, and specifically in CCB digital. So basically the entire digital ecospace, and we support all different product teams that are in that space. So we have about 100 or so product teams, and yeah, some of them are customer facing, some of them are not, but yeah, many of them are running experiments with us.
So I would guess that's like banking and mortgages and loans and credit cards and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So credit cards and like checking account, savings account, those are things that people usually think of. But yeah, we have a lot of different financial products for folks.
Yeah, that's got to be just an absolutely massive business with so many users.
Yeah, I think every single line of business can be its individual company. Yeah. And so very large.
If you just think about credit cards and the number of transactions that your business processes, the numbers must be just staggering, like bigger than Walmart type of thing.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not sure about Walmart's numbers, but it is large. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. And so both web and mobile too, I would assume.
Yes. So both web and mobile, and we also support some back-end applications, even call centers and things like that.
Got it. Wow, that's really impressive. And so roughly how many experiments are you doing a year?
So right now we're running about 300 experiments or so a year, and we're continuing to grow. And when we first started, I think the first year after we got infrastructure set up was like 8 experiments. And over time, we started to run more and more experiments, and we're starting to grow. We think there's still a lot of opportunity for this number to grow.
Yeah, I can imagine. And so what led Chase to start doing more in experimentation?
So experimentation, I think, is one way for leadership to understand the impact of their changes. And I think what was able to really get leadership to buy into the idea, which didn't really take long, was the idea that if you're not testing, you really risk not knowing what to double down on. And at the same time, you also don't know when the things that you're releasing is really driving the impact that you want. And so that kind of risk mitigation, and as well as the optimization piece of it, which is very well understood, that's what got leadership to buy into it.
Got it. And I think you started out more on the marketing side and then it made its way into the product as well.
Yeah, that's right. On the marketing side, experimentation was alive and well, like email A/B testing, that's always happening. But on the product side, that's more of how things are starting to evolve into, and more just when you build products, particularly digital products, digital user experiences, like this online experimentation is such a, I think in a lot of ways, it's easier to experiment, and you get a lot of data, but at the same time, sometimes it's also hard to interpret sometimes, but it's a lot of different signals that you have to sift through.
Yeah. Yeah. I love Chase's products. I'm a banking and credit card customer and I just really love the app. So you've done great work.
One shameless plug, we recently just won #1 in JD Power for US banking apps. So that was a big celebration. I'd like to think experimentation has something to do with that.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not surprised. I know the app. I just find it really just very fluid. It just does what I need to do when I need to do it. So it's great.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah. And you've been able to deliver a tremendous amount of value through experimentation too. Is that right?
Yeah, so one of the things that we're really proud of is like over the years, our estimated value from just experimentation and innovation just in general is over $1 billion is our estimation. And so, yeah, it's the number that we're proud of, and we think it's just continued to grow. And that's only for a lot of from the winner of the experiments, not even from the losers.
So that's not even counting the losers. So that might be another billion you avoided in losses right there.
Yeah, and a lot of the value really is, if you think about it, the losers are probably where the value is really coming from.
Yeah, no question. The whole point of experimentation is to be able to sift through all the features you ship to figure out which ones are winners and which ones aren't. All the learning happens on the losing side. If you ship something and it wins, that's great. You ship it and you move on. But if it loses, then you say, okay, why did it lose? And that's where the real learning comes.
Yeah, and something unexpected, making sure you have the right metrics in place, just so you're not stacking yourself to win. I think that's also another something to be on the lookout for.
Yeah, you certainly hear stories about that with the selective choices of who sees variant A versus variant B, things like that. So.
Yeah.
So how do you make decisions at Chase? How do you use data to do that?
So at Chase, we try to look at the experiences in a very comprehensive way, in a balanced way. And I think I should first say, as far as metrics, there are different dimensions we try to cover. So make sure the user experience is balanced. So in addition to making sure the business makes money, we also make sure we want to look at engagement as well, but not vanity engagement. So for example, a while back, we were looking at this was like when you go into mobile app home screen, there is like a tile that basically leads you into your credit score, which basically every banking app has something like that. And there was a debate over on like what we should do here. Should we bring the score forward or not? And what you're worried about is that if you bring the score forward, maybe people don't really click into that feature anymore. And then maybe you should hide it behind. But what we ended up doing was bring it forward, and what we saw was repeat engagement. So that's like the good kind of engagement we want to see. And then besides that, there's also satisfaction. We want to look at over time, and just like retention is also something else that we focus on. And different line of business, making sure that, because with shared services, multiple lines of business and shared services, we always want to make sure it's not just did it work for everyone? If it didn't work for everyone, what is the right amount of trade-off if it didn't work for everyone?
Yeah. Boy, I can just imagine it's got to take some rigor to do that, because you've got different apps with different experiences. You've got different users that are looking for different experiences themselves, and engagement might look good in one place in the app and actually be a real problem somewhere else.
Yeah. I always say decision framework and looking at different metrics, it is tough, especially when it comes to engagement.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So can you tell us a little bit more about how you run experimentation at Chase?
Yeah, we have a platform where the teams will first come and register their experiments. And what we focus there on is making sure that we capture the hypothesis and what they're trying to do, what they're trying to measure. And that goes into our basically knowledge repository, right? And then within the platform, we help them come up with the right design, and then they go through it. And just ensuring how we also try to guide them on success metrics and guardrail metrics, and that's how decisions gets made.
Got it. And are you using machine learning?
When you say machine learning, I think we are we're doing a lot of model testing right now.
Hmm.
So like with model testing, we definitely that's an area where we might see gains in one outcome, but not another. And that's when we need to iterate in models and maybe page redesigns. And we do a lot of big changes that sometimes need to iterate a lot more.
Got it. Got it. And are the models of those more for figuring out who to offer what to, or are you talking about AI models and in-app experiences?
But it's personalization models, so it is trying to figure out surfacing the right content for the right user at the right time. Yeah, for AI, we're looking into things right now.
Yeah. And I would imagine that some of your teams are more forward leaning and really get experimentation, and other people, they see a loser and they really want it to be a winner. And maybe they question the platform.
That can happen. I think that can churn. I think it's really important to make sure that you align on the metrics and align on the decision criteria beforehand. I think that is definitely not every team will do that, and you just try to instill the right culture. But it is if you don't have the right decision frameworks in place, and later on you see the results, you may start to have confirmation bias, start to try to look for evidence to support what you wanted to do, call into questions on the way to look at a metric. It's important to have that kind of organizational alignment on how to measure.
Yeah. I would imagine getting alignment on the hypothesis definition and the key metrics and your decision framework is really important. And then also showing people that just because a loser's a loser doesn't mean there isn't room to iterate and find a way to make that feature a winner.
Yes, that's really important. One of the things that we want to preach when we work with teams is that plan for failure. I think a lot of times those type of bias comes in because you never thought you would lose. So
Yeah.
when it happens, you don't really know what to do. But if you have a playbook and you already planned for it, and you're already kind of losing is just part of just for me to do the next thing that I had already planned for, it doesn't feel like a loss. And it's just a little bit of a mental trick, figuring out what are we trying to accomplish? How are we going to measure that we have accomplished that? And then if this doesn't happen, what does it mean for us about our assumptions? And is our assumption wrong, or was it just maybe a difference in execution, or was it some of the execution needed to be refined, or we try a different approach?
Yeah. Yeah. It makes total sense. So often, there's lots and lots of examples where the V1 of something that got shipped, even the iPod, I was listening to a podcast the other day talking about the iPod, and it wasn't until version 3 that it was truly a winner. And if people think that any new feature they build, that it's immediately going to be a winner, it's probably not realistic. So helping set that expectation would go a long way.
Yeah. And experimentation is one way for you to really see the impact. People believe that they can monitor if things were going wrong or going right just without having a control group. And I think that's one of the biggest myth that people have. And that's the first myth I try to bust when I do an overview on experimentation and try to get people to understand the value of having a control group.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think you have a little example of something else that you share with your teams to kind of help educate them on experimentation.
Yeah, this is one of the exercises that I do when I run this training. I think it's a fun exercise, and I think it will be a fun one to do on the show. So I will pull that up, and we'll see. We'll let maybe Ashley, you'll be the one to try to go through this, and we'll see if you can get it right.
Sounds good.
So far, every time I tried this, I don't think I ever had anybody who ever got it right. So we'll see.
Okay, that's a high bar. I'm going to be humble.
So I hope you can see this. Yeah, here, basically, this is a replica of what I do. And I say, and this is like a completion rate of an app completion rate, something really important to us. And a small relative change here is worth millions to us. And so what usually I do to the audience is that, okay, I'm going to show you this time series of how the app completion rate is going over the past like 90 days. And a change happened here, a really quite significant change, and it's worth millions. Can you guess where it happens? So I will give you a chance to look at this and pick a spot and just
Yeah.
roughly tell me.
Yeah. Boy, does that look like a lot of the marketing data I look at. It's like up on Monday, Tuesday, down on Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah.
You can tell that there's really no good spot in here. If I was going to guess, I would guess it was somewhere around the end of January.
Oh, end of January. Whoa, let's see. Let's see if we get it. It's happened right there. You're very close.
I was close. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Very close. But there's really no good way if you're like just looking through. There's a lot of times people will pick like the spikes or the drops and just kind of seeing it. And this is like simulated data, it's not real data. And so like it seemed like there's some noise reduction, but overall, really it just varies, it's just moving. And so it's very difficult to figure out where changes occurred, right? But if we ran an experiment, you'll be able to have a different line. And the orange line here is your control. And the shaded area is your impact. So now having this one line is why you're able to really, figure out the impact of your change, because most of the times the stuff that you're doing and releasing to market, it is not going to create these huge spikes and that you can really observe. And especially just with seasonality and everything. So having a control group is super important.
Yeah, that's a really great example. It just so highlights that these small changes can have a huge impact, especially on a business of the scale of Chase. Even still, a 5% move is a huge one and very hard to see with the naked eye.
Yeah. And those things are like hard to move a lot of the times. And when it does move on a large scale, it means a lot for the business.
Yeah. And it just shows that if you're a business and you're not doing those kinds of things and you're making lots of changes, there's just no way you're going to be able to see with the day-to-day noise, if things are going up, why? And which of the 10 features I shipped moved it up a little bit and which moved it down? So that's a really powerful example.
Yeah, and once you start to measure everything, one, you learn a lot. And another thing is you start to get a comprehensive view across your entire portfolio. And like you start to look at things at a higher level now that you start to measure everything. And that is something that really helps the organization to move in the right direction.
Yeah. And how do you share learnings across just within a team or even across teams?
So we do have forums. And so within the platform, the information is there for people to go get. We have champions across different teams that will hold their own experimentation forum. My own broader org does have an experimentation forum that we also host. We actually host a couple of them. And some of them are more executive focused audience. And another one is more like a general audience. And like we also have one on the analytics side that is more analytics focused. So sharing these different learnings, approaches, and practices across the firm. And some teams will also compile it into, like last year, I sent like a experimentation wrapped newsletter out to the firm, to some of the things that we've seen that across, that was just like a fun thing to send out.
I love that. That's a great idea. Everybody should do that.
Especially with the help of AI nowadays, it's much easier to get something done that way.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's an idea that's come up a few times in the past, and I've always loved that idea. It's a great way to share things, especially with experimentation, because it can be very visual, and the insights can be really powerful. So putting them in something like that as a year-end summary can be a great way of raising awareness for all the learnings that went on during the year.
Yeah, that's right.
And so every team's a little different. I think you said that the travel business is a little different as well. Is that true?
Yeah, I would just say, so even though we're a bank, the financial products, we also have a really big travel arm, travel business. And so with this travel business, the metrics there are different. You start to not so much looking at like finances, it's the travel business. So you're looking for people to book travel, what kind of inventory are they getting, and like the right strategy for rewards, for redemption, those kind of things are important for the travel business, like you optimize it. And so that's why it's interesting to be in my seat, because I get to work with so many different line of business and just a different perspective from different products.
Yeah, you can certainly imagine the use cases would be very different for somebody who's trying to check their latest credit card statement versus someone that's doing research on going on a vacation that might come back 4 or 5 times, think about it a little bit in the middle. And so kind of how you measure the impact you're having would need to be very different.
Also, how you're surfacing the right inventory there to the user.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes total sense. It's a very different browsing type of experience, exploration versus where's that bill from my
The
full
core
paper
banking.
card? Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Speaking of core banking, some of the things that we think about optimizing for, like it's for as far as engagement, sometimes I would say it's one of those things that's easy to measure and hard to interpret is because for us, like engagement, if you spend more time on the app, that may not be a good thing
Right.
because we ultimately want to build trust. We want you to be able to complete your core banking task easily. And for payment flow, maybe we make it simpler for you to be able to send a payment. But at the same time, we might also introduce speed bumps, so to prevent fraud. So it's hard. It's like you need to balance and need to check to see if what you're doing is right for the customer and what we actually want to happen.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. That makes a lot of sense. I make a lot of Zelle payments in my Chase app, and you don't want me doing it too fast and sending money to the wrong person. That's a way to create unhappy people.
Yeah, especially Zelle. I mean, Zelle, there's people trying to trick you to send money.
Yeah, that's a great point, too. I hadn't even thought about that.
Yeah, that's one of the speed bumps that I was talking about that we have considered to introduce to prevent people from getting tricked.
That makes a lot of sense. So how do you see experimentation evolving at Chase going forward?
Experimentation, I think just the industry as a whole, I think it's gonna enter almost like a golden era, I feel like. Like with AI coming through, everybody is going to ship faster. But do you have the right infrastructure in place to measure those things that you're shipping out is super important. And if you don't measure them right, your mistakes are going to compound. So I think just the sheer fact that there's going to be more things getting shipped, it's just going to increase the need to have more experiments. And you start to get into a world where things are non-deterministic. I think that's also like another area where experimentation really comes in and need to figure out how do you measure it non-deterministically? That's something like I'm looking into, but I don't have an answer for.
Yeah, that's a super interesting topic. One of our customers, Khan Academy, they have a AI tutor. And so the metric they wanted to optimize was cognitive engagement. Is the student just trying to get the answer out of the AI tutor and so they can finish the class as quickly as possible? Or are they asking questions that show they're trying to get learning and trying to understand the problem better?
Mm-hmm.
And they were able to show that as they optimized, played around with the prompts and different models and all that, they were able to increase cognitive engagement by 6%, which, back to your thing, super hard to measure. So they actually did a lot of training and labeling on what's a good question, a highly engaged question versus one that's not. And I think that's a super interesting aspect to LLM-powered apps. Some of them, it's very easy to measure. Did they complete the form faster? That's an easy one. But was that a good chat experience? Was that a good customer service experience? Those are much harder to answer. Did they just leave mad and decide they're going to call the call center instead of getting it resolved in the app?
Yeah, the qualitative piece of it, it's something I think it's going to be a really tough problem for the industry to really solve and figure out. And when things are going wrong, like why are they going wrong? The evals and traces are it's hard to wrap your mind around doing all of that.
Yeah, it's also really interesting. Eval is good for QA. I put in this question, did I get the expected answer back? But it's not good at measuring how humans will interact with it with all the 9 million different variations on how they ask the same question. And does it actually lead them to take the actions that you want them to take? Evals are really poor at that, and experimentation is just critical.
Yeah. So hopefully I'll still have a job. We'll still have more things to do. Yeah. And then making the right decision, which is like the really tough part of this business.
Yeah. I'm actually personally convinced that it's going to create more jobs. AI is going to create more jobs, not less. Yes, jobs will change. But when it comes to like building software, even before AI, people were only using 10% of the features of almost any software product. So it's not about churning out more and more features, which AI lets you do. It's about how do you create the best, the most excellent experience. And that's where experimentation and really understanding your users and what they're trying to do is just so critical. Yeah, I think this, like you said, I think it's going to be a golden age for experimentation.
Yeah, especially if you start to get into the world where people are starting to customize their own features,
Yes.
allowed to do that, then how do you measure that? Like how much you allow people to do, that's like another layer to think about.
Yeah, especially when it comes to Chase's business. I think everybody has a different way of looking at their money and how they want to manage their money and understand their spend and all those types of things. And I hadn't thought about that before, but that really opens up some exciting possibilities on how you could create better user experiences.
Yeah, everybody becomes a builder. That's a fun time.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Kevin, for coming on the show. I feel like we learned a ton, and it's really exciting to see, $1 billion worth of progress in experimentation. That's a pretty incredible number.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you for inviting me. Happy to talk about it.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this conversation, please support our channel by hitting the like button and subscribing. Better yet, share the episode with a friend. I'm Ashley Stirrup with GrowthBook. We'll see you next time on the Experimentation Edge.